One man, $65 billion, 37,000 victims across 136 countries. And for over 40 years, no one stopped him. Before the arrest, before the courtroom, before his own sons turned him in, Bernie Madoff was a Wall Street legend, chairman of NASDAQ, trusted by banks, charities, billionaires, and ordinary people who simply wanted to retire with dignity. But behind that respected face was the architect of the largest financial fraud in human history, a scheme so massive, so perfectly hidden, that even the world's best regulators couldn't see it. Today, we unravel the mystery of Bernie Madoff, and what you're about to hear will change the way you think about trust, money, and the people you give your life savings to. Bernie Madoff was born on April 29, 1938, in Queens, New York. He came from a middle-class Jewish family. His father, Ralph Madoff, was a stockbroker and plumber who struggled to keep his business afloat during the Great Depression. In 1960, at just 22 years old, Bernie founded Bernard de Madoff Investment Securities LLC with only $5,000, money he had saved from working as a lifeguard and installing sprinkler systems. $5,000. Remember that number, because what he turned it into would one day shock the entire world. In the early days, Madoff was genuinely innovative. He was one of the pioneers of electronic trading, a system called payment for order flow that revolutionized how stocks were bought and sold on Wall Street. He was smart. He was respected. He was the real deal. By the late 1980s, his firm was one of the largest market makers on Wall Street. In 1990, Bernie Madoff became the chairman of the NASDAQ Stock Exchange, one of the most prestigious positions in American finance. He held that role until 1993. But here's where the story takes a dark turn. Because while the legitimate side of his business was thriving, something very different was happening behind closed doors. Madoff ran a separate investment advisory division, and this division operated as a massive, elaborate fraud, what we now know as a Ponzi scheme. But this wasn't a crude scam. This was a masterclass in deception. Madoff promised his investors steady, consistent returns, typically between 10 and 12% per year. And here's the disturbing part. Year after year, he delivered. His clients received account statements showing exactly the returns he had promised. In 2001, the Wall Street Journal published an article questioning how Madoff achieved such consistently positive returns when the rest of the market was volatile. But the article didn't go far enough. No one investigated further. How did he maintain the illusion? Simple. He never actually invested the money. When new investors deposited funds, he used that money to pay returns to existing investors. Classic Ponzi mechanics, but on a scale the world had never seen. He created fake trade confirmations, fake account statements, a fake trading floor on the 17th floor of the Lipstick Building in Midtown Manhattan, a floor so secret that even his own legitimate employees were forbidden from entering. And the people who trusted him? They were the most sophisticated investors in the world, major banks like HSBC and BNP Paribas, hedge funds, celebrities, and ordinary families. He even managed money for dozens of charitable organizations, many of them connected to the Jewish community. These weren't greedy speculators. These were people who believed they were making safe, responsible decisions for their families and their futures. But not everyone was fooled. Meet Harry Markopolos, a financial analyst from Boston. In the year 2000, Markopolos was asked by his employer to figure out how Madoff was achieving his returns. After just 4 hours of analysis, Markopolos concluded it was mathematically impossible. He wrote a report titled, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." And then he did something extraordinary. He took his findings directly to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, the government agency responsible for protecting investors. Not once, not twice, 8 times. Over a period of 8 years, Harry Markopolos sent detailed evidence, mathematical proofs, and specific red flags to the SEC. And every single time, they ignored him. Markopolos later testified before Congress and said, the SEC was never capable of catching Mr. Madoff. He could have gone on for another 20 years. Why was the SEC so blind? Some analysts believe it was institutional incompetence. Others point to the fact that Madoff was a former NASDAQ chairman, an insider, a member of the club. He had friends in high places. He had been vetted, approved. The truth? It was probably a combination of both. Then came 2008, the global financial crisis. Lehman Brothers collapsed. The stock market plummeted. And suddenly, Madoff's clients needed their money. In the fall of 2008, investors began requesting approximately $7 billion in withdrawals. $7 billion. That did not exist. On December 10, 2008, one day before his arrest, Bernie Madoff sat down with his 2 sons, Mark and Andrew, both of whom worked in the legitimate arm of the firm. He told them the truth. According to Mark Madoff's account, Bernie said, "It's all just one big lie. It's basically a giant Ponzi scheme." He estimated the fraud at around $50 billion. His sons were stunned. Within hours, they contacted an attorney. The attorney contacted federal authorities. And on the morning of December 11, 2008, 2 FBI agents knocked on the door of Bernie Madoff's penthouse apartment on East 64th Street in Manhattan. Bernie Madoff opened the door in his bathrobe and said, "I knew this day would come." What followed was devastation on a scale that is almost impossible to comprehend. On March 12, 2009, Bernie Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies, including securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. He admitted to everything. On June 29, 2009, he was sentenced to 150 years in federal prison, the maximum sentence possible. He was 71 years old. But the real victims? They were everywhere. The actual cash losses, money that investors had personally deposited, totaled approximately $17.5 billion. The paper value of the fraud, including fabricated gains, reached roughly $65 billion. At least 2 people took their own lives as a direct result of the fraud. René Magan de la Villa Huchet, a French aristocrat and fund manager who had invested his clients' money with Madoff, was found dead in his office in December 2008, just days after the arrest. In September 2010, Madoff's eldest son, Mark Madoff, who had always maintained he knew nothing about the fraud, was found dead in his Manhattan apartment on the 2nd anniversary of his father's arrest. He was 46 years old. He left behind 2 young children. Andrew, the younger son, died of cancer in 2014 at age 48. He had publicly blamed his father's actions for contributing to his brother's death. Bernie Madoff's wife, Ruth, was never charged with a crime, but was forced to forfeit nearly all of the couple's assets. She has said she had no knowledge of the fraud. The court-appointed trustee, Irving Picard, has spent over 14 years recovering funds for victims. As of 2024, he has recovered more than $14.5 billion, an extraordinary achievement, returning approximately 97% of identified losses to eligible claimants. And on April 14, 2021, Bernie Madoff died in federal prison at the age of 82. He had served approximately 12 years of his 150-year sentence. So what can we learn from the Madoff scandal? Lesson 1. If someone promises consistent, above-average returns with almost no risk, that is a red flag. The market doesn't work that way. It never has. Lesson 2. Regulatory agencies are not infallible. Harry Markopolos proved that one person with the right evidence can see the truth, even when the institutions designed to protect us cannot. Lesson 3. Trust is powerful and dangerous. Bernie Madoff exploited trust for 4 decades. He didn't just steal money. He destroyed faith in the financial system itself. If this video opened your eyes, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Leave a comment below. Do you think a fraud this massive could happen again today? I read every single comment. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, share this video with them right now. The more people who understand how these schemes work, the harder it becomes for the next Bernie Madoff to succeed.